Keyholing podcast with
assembled.
Lemon, and this week I have nerds, Shittinator, and Gummie with me.
I resent that nerd
For those that
remark,
don't
by the way.
know,
You're not wrong, but
Shittinator
fuck you.
is the creator of the GunCAD Index, a very important tool. Use code INDEX at all his sponsors. It's at the bottom of the page. Gummie, who we have on with us, is a very smart technical guy. Please follow him on socials. He does great work tracking stuff down. He's helped Shittinator with a bunch of stuff. But Shittinator, could you go ahead and explain the GunCAD Index?
The GunCAD Index is a search engine for all of the gun designs that we've been putting out over Odyssey and over Libri by extension. In addition, it also has a wiki, which I have tentative plans to expand in the near future. Stay posted. And it also has a forum, a Lemmy forum, so that whenever we get FOSCAD 3 or whatever banned, you have a place to actually talk about these sorts of things.
And you bring up a great point from Reddit, actually, both FOSCADs being banned. We had FOSCAD 1, the OG, the original from the Myanmar Legends, all the lore got taken down. We live in Reddit nanny state. And FOSCAD 2, FOSCAD TOO taken down. So it's so important to build those structures outside of what's operated by Reddit and whatever other major media conglomerate may own those. I do kind of want to shift away from that. We'll get back into it later in the pod, but I kind of want to talk to you all about your start, your inspiration, we should say, in regard to computer nerd stuff. Was there a specific book, movie, scene, anything of that nature that really struck your interest? Was it just a general pull to the field? Kind of how did that work, and explain to listeners what really got you started down the nerd path. And I think what we'll do, Gummie, let's have you go first.
Yeah, so for me, there was never really like one flashbulb moment. There are several different memories that I have from childhood through early adolescence where, there were certain things that I experienced that kind of took me down that path. The first thing that I remember was in my school library in elementary school coming across the Tom Swift books. And those books were largely about like a child inventor, a tinkerer. And for whatever reason, that just kind of spoke to me and took me down that path. There were some other things, like I had read a book called Digital Fortress when I was a kid. It was written by Dan Brown of Da Vinci Code fame. And that book specifically deals in things like cryptography, which started to pique my interest. There's some cliche things like seeing the movie Hackers, seeing the movie Enemy of the State. That kind of took me down more of like a counterculture path. And then, I've had basically unfettered access to the internet even since early childhood. So I ended up on sites like Totsi and looking at the Anarchist Cookbook and stuff like that all the way back.
Where I got started, I've basically been on computers since the moment I was able to reach for a keyboard. Like, when I was 5, I was sat in front of a Windows 95 PC and told, yeah, you can figure this out, I don't know what to do with this. So, from there, I grew up in the middle of, I don't know if you guys remember this, but do you remember the Sony PlayStation Portable?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. And how Sony could not keep a handle on hacking that thing? I was right in the middle of that. I was hacking PSPs in middle school, and it was the best, most fun thing ever. That led into, just hacking and InfoSec and a little bit of that, and then eventually I learned more about computers, got into Linux, started a career, and now I'm here.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but everyone that uses Linux is a furry, yes?
No, because most of them, if not all of them, are autistic. But furry is like a subset of autistic. So, All so I guess all furries use Linux, but not all people who use Linux are furries.
So it's essentially the square rectangle problem, and this is science and 100% correct because you're a nerd, right?
Exactly. Definitely 100% solid fact. And, yeah, I have proof to back all of that up. Definitely. Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, so there's a lot of different ways that communication actually ends up occurring over technologies that are used by internet connected services. The simple way that I would explain it to most people is just that it's a bunch of computers that you don't own, right? So somebody else has computers somewhere else on the planet. You're sending data to them. They're sending data back.
So I understand it correctly, and I'm not hitting it raw, crazy style. What is a VPN? What does that do for me? What protection does that give?
The shortest way I can think to describe that is imagine you want to receive a package, right? But you don't want people to know your home address. So you go and get a P.O. box. It's basically the same deal. If you don't want your traffic to be traced back to your IP, which can be vaguely geolocated to you, among a few other things, then you would use a VPN.
And so, since it can be geolocated, I guess there's only so much you can do in that regard. Does it communicate to my ISP or anything of that nature? Or is it the same? Like, they can only view that as, like, a normal person with essentially that P.O. box scenario.
A properly configured VPN will keep the traffic between the VPN and your box that traverses your ISP secure. So your ISP won't be able to see what you are doing over the VPN, but they will see that you are connecting to that VPN. It's not a silver bullet. The VPN itself doesn't stop you from being tracked online or, whatever threat you're trying to defend against. It is one part of a larger system. Gummie, you got something on this?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that there's overlap. What most people are talking about when they're talking about the quote-unquote dark web, they're probably talking about accessing some Tor onion service. But that is not really the dark web. The dark web is just anything that is not really accessible through a traditional search engine, and that's a lot of things, and it's more expansive than what would be accessible through just the Tor network.
Yeah, I guess if you wanted to say, you could say that dark web is like an editorialized title to refer to a collection of things in the same way that Ghost Gun is.
Correct. That's the way I would think about it.
Okay, that's another really helpful analogy. I think I kind of see and understand that perspective now, at least like what the words are utilized to mean. What I will hit raw is I will hit the GunCAD Index raw and look up some beautiful 3D printed files, baby.
I have your IP, Lemon. I have your IP.
Is this necessary for use on the internet? Like, not just downloading 3D printing gun files, but just operating as a whole?
Well, that all depends on your threat model. If you're doing something illegal, I could see how it would benefit you. As far as doing regular everyday stuff, it's just part of a security strategy for what you want to defend yourself from, right? Like, say you are... Give me a threat model here. Like, what sorts of things would Tor defend you against?
Simplest threat model, Shittinator turns over IP logs, which is very
unlikely.
Yeah. Second threat model, ISP, say it's Xfinity or AT&T, turns over their ISP log, specifically DNS requests.
Yeah. So in those cases, right, say you consider me a bad actor, you consider the GunCAD Index a bad actor, or inevitably could be compromised or something, or even not even that, like say the website gets hacked, right? I like to think I'm pretty good at security, but, it can happen, right? So in those cases, you are masking the information you provide to the GunCAD Index or to other websites that you visit over the internet. In the case of Tor especially, the GunCAD Index has a Tor onion service. And so, without getting too into the weeds of exactly how Tor works, it encapsulates what your data is, like what data you're sending to a web server, in like 5 or 6 layers of encryption in such a way that nobody in the middle really knows what the hell's going on outside of you and the website. And in that case, you have basically completely masked any of the... I don't want to say that you have comprehensively masked all of the metadata, but 99% of it is just gone. And I can't see where the data is coming from. Just that I'm sending a website to some Tor circuit.
So all of this I'm trying to process is pretty confusing. And oftentimes I just assume it's magic, like it just works, but it's kind of hard to process and wrap around. But is this all really just ones and zeros? Are these computers just beep booping, back and forth, and that's how all this is happening? Like, it can't be just that, right? Right?
The hell are you talking about, man? That all of this isn't just electrical signals?
Okay, so yes, I am going to assume it's magic. And talking about magic, so the main focus of this episode, cloud printing, right? That's kind of what we touched around, the communications between machines, things of that nature. So essentially, it's going to be a bunch of questions at once. How does cloud printing work? What does cloud printing do, essentially? Like, what are you doing when you choose to send that print to your printer? What exactly is happening, I guess? Just more magic?
Oh, let's see. Gummie, you want to take the floor on this one?
Yeah, I'll start. So, when we typically conceive of things like cloud printing, there may be all kinds of third-party services that the 3D printer vendor or the software vendor are using. So you might be sending your print information, your data and your metadata to, right? And they're doing whatever it is that they're doing on the back end, and then turning that around and sending it to your printer for you. And we don't have any visibility necessarily into what companies like that might be doing with that data, like logging it, how long they're logging it for, whether or not they're modifying that data. So that, for obvious reasons, there are some security concerns that could be posed by that kind of thing, which is why we would generally recommend against using a cloud printing service.
Yeah.
Shit, do you have anything to add to that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The other thing is we don't know how that's architected, right? So there's
Right.
2 different ways that I can think of that are basically just how you would get the data from that random cloud server to your printer, right? It's either push or it's pull. If it's pull, then your printer will occasionally talk to that cloud service, see what it needs to print, or get a notification from the cloud service that it has something to print. It'll sign in or whatever itself to the cloud server and it'll pull the file, or, and we'll get to why this is a bad idea, it'll be a push model where the cloud service just tells your printer what to print. There was this thing a while back, I can't remember exactly how many months back it was at this point, maybe over a year, but Bamboo had a bug and they shut their print dispatcher down basically immediately after this happened, where they were dispatching prints to the wrong printers. And people were getting other people's prints with random unrelated filament profiles on their printers, which is incredibly scary, just on the face of it. Disregarding any op track, a cloud printing service is just full of all sorts of holes and vulnerabilities and what ifs.
Yeah, and we have no visibility into closed source software that they might be using for the drivers for all those networking connections or any of the rest of it. So again, like you raised the threat or the potential vulnerability of these systems being hacked. What happens if you have a device that's connected to a power outlet that can produce heat? Like, we're going to start having people's houses burned down because some malicious actor decided, screw it. Really
Yeah, fuck
unlikely,
it. I'm
but
gonna
like
set your
that's
hot into
not.
1000 C. Yeah.
Yeah,
And so that actually absolves me. It was not me sending the Chairman Juan frames at the local library. That was not me. Um, and so that brings up some really interesting points. So is there a place? I just want to use Bamboo for an example. Pick on them a little bit. They're not the only cloud printing company, or cloud people producing cloud printers. Do they have, like, are they keeping a giant log of all the things that's printed? Does that exist? Like, is that how things get swapped up, or is it just their system is that it lacks transparency to the point that we just don't know?
we have
We
no
got
way
no
of
clue, man.
knowing. Yeah, we have no way of knowing that. There may be some people that perhaps work for those companies that would have visibility into that and would probably never disclose it publicly unless they like decided to blow a whistle and something really bad was actually happening. My personal assumption is that if data is leaving my network, it is being logged in perpetuity by someone I shouldn't trust. Now, maybe that's a little on the paranoid side, but that is going to be the safest option in my thinking.
Yeah, I concur 100%. We basically have no visibility into these external systems. You more or less just have to assume that they're going to keep it, because why wouldn't they, right? It's like 2 kilobytes of data in an S3 bucket. Bamboo doesn't care. They'll
No,
probably just let it sit.
it's absolutely nothing to them. And you brought up some interesting security risks, and we've seen this in other tech areas, not printing related. We've seen people easily hack into baby monitors, into home security camera systems, uh, and so is it that level of vulnerability? I assume not, but I mean, in reality, if it's sending it somewhere, it feels like someone can access it. All
It
right.
could be
We
pretty
don't
bad,
know.
actually. Yeah, so I mean, take for example a printer like the P1S. There is no Ethernet port in that printer. So if you're doing any kind of printing other than putting the file on the SD card, walking it to the printer, and then printing, that file is being, put onto that printer via Wi-Fi. So if your firmware isn't updated and there's some Wi-Fi vulnerability that we don't see, that we're not aware of, that happens in the future and that someone exploits, somebody could, get onto the printer, get onto your home network if your printer's connected to everything else in your house. There's all kinds of risks there.
Oh, absolutely. The X1 Carbon is just a tiny little ARM Linux box there, dude. You know how many tiny
Yep.
little ARM Linux boxes are responsible for Internet of Shit devices just getting compromised and becoming botnets all the time?
Yep.
Like, it, to my knowledge, it doesn't, like, punch a hole through your router for a web-facing internet portal or anything like that, but it really wouldn't take that much to compromise it.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm kind of freaking out right now,
No,
and
don't. We're talking security stuff, and it all sounds really terrible, but it's not as bad as it
but
might seem.
I want to talk about, like, the accessibility of it, right? So, like, security is it's this really rough balance of, and things are coming out. Amazon Ring recently had a deal with Flock, so like Flock has access to Ring cameras essentially, and so there is this massive surveillance state, and it not only makes, as just a consumer, it makes me nervous for what people can access, right? And there's a court case going on in Washington right now to say, like, hey, Flock data is public, like the public paid for it, it is public data. So the idea that anyone can, well, first of all, fuck police. I'm not speaking for you guys, but I don't even want police accessing this shit. I don't want them to exist. But that anyone can access this data is kind of terrifying. Like, it is just a security risk, and it is like you have to threat model everything of that nature. But it is terrifying that the people, like, pushing these products seem to have no accountability of what's happening to the data.
Correct.
Yeah, and I mean, we've been fighting this for how many years now? This isn't even a printer problem. This is just an Internet of Things problem.
No, definitely. And I mean, that goes back to like what like originally around Internet Freedom Acts and like trying to legislate things off the internet. It's never stopped. Like it's just like the video games gun excuse. It's always like, oh well, if we just take this off the internet, then it'll be fixed. If we just remove this one thing from the internet, then we'll be good. If we can just track every single thing you do, then you'll be safe. And it's like that's just not reality at all. But yeah, no, we're only part way in this episode, and I'm already freaking out. This is stressing me out. And it really is frustrating that none of these companies are really accountable to what happens to it. And you see, like, I'll just bring up AT&T, for example. We briefly mentioned them earlier. They had a huge data breach. And, like, we're talking, like, social security numbers, addresses, all sorts of shit. And they ended up paying out, like, a few dollars a person. Like, and it was, like, in the billions, but it's like that doesn't even, like, chip away at their, like, funds or anything. So it's like, there is no structure set up to hold these companies accountable. Like, right? Like, I mean, like...
More or less. I mean, it's the same with every billion-dollar corporation, right? You put something in place, and if it's not a heavy enough fine, then it's just the cost of doing business.
No, absolutely. And it's like, I don't just want to spend this entire episode, like... Sorry, that was a crazy smack. Scary dooming or anything like that, but what's to stop, like, I don't know, the CPC, the Communist Party of China from, or some know the CCP. What's to stop them from like forcing Bamboo to give all of their data over?
Absolutely nothing.
Nothing, dude. Fuck all.
Jesus.
Yeah, but you know what the best defense against any of this is?
A gun.
Just don't print over the cloud.
Exactly.
Just don't print over the cloud. Just take it, walk the 20 paces to your printer, and just put the SD card in your printer and print locally. Or if you have faith in it, or you've got like an ender or something and you're doing Octoprint, but you know what you're doing if you're doing that, you can just send it over LAN so it doesn't traverse the internet.
So, if you are, and I kind of want to transition to that, like avoiding cloud printers and things like that. So, printers are like, you founded the GunCAD Index with the open source idea, people contributing, other people documenting and things of that nature. And so printers are the same idea, right? Like you can make a printer with a bunch of parts from eBay or Amazon. You don't need to buy directly from Bamboo. And
exactly. I mean, that's what a Voron is, yeah.
And so is there an open source printer now? The Century Carbon is a cloud printer. The Bamboo printers you mentioned, the P1S doesn't even have a Ethernet cord. Is there non-cloud like ground printers that are being produced right now?
To be clear, the question of is there an open source printer is different from is there a printer where I don't have to use the fucking cloud to send a print to my printer. Those are different questions.
Okay, well, let's do the first one then. Is there a non-cloud? Because I understand you can use some Bamboo models without like connecting it to the internet or things of that nature. But is there like what are some non-cloud printers? Like, is it just as simple as forcing these printers offline and never turning them online?
Oh man, Gummie, do you have good recommendations here? I wasn't able to scrounge together much. I'm not tied into.
Yeah, so I haven't really. I don't. You know, my ender days are behind me, thankfully. So I haven't really explored a lot of new printers. I'm happy with using my Bamboo products at the moment. There are a lot of caveats to that. I don't know that we want to get into all those details for purposes of this podcast. I can't really give specific recommendations for a whole bunch of other companies because I haven't used or explored or studied those specific printers. The safest option is probably going to be something, and I know I'm going to get you a lot of shit for this, it's going to be something like an Ender 3 series. You know, it is as dumb a printer as it gets. It only accepts a USB or an SD card, and you're good to go.
It's definitely the safest option. Yeah, an Ender 3 is the most OPSEC safe option, bar maybe going above and getting approved.
You'd have to be very smart to create a vulnerability where it's going to be a problem for you.
Ender dub.
Yeah.
I'm tagging everyone under this. Albert and
Let it be
me.
known. Let it be known. I didn't recommend that an Ender is a good printer.
Correct.
And I don't think Gummie's saying that either.
I
But we're
did not
saying
say
if
that.
you-
I'm
we're
happy
saying-
that my Ender days are behind me. I will say that
Oh
much.
yeah. But we're saying definitely if you want to stay maximally safe, you know, whatever that means security-wise, then use an Ender. Sure.
Definitely.
Of course,
What
like
you're gonna
with
find
everything.
is that, but what you're gonna find is that both of us use bamboo products.
Exactly.
There's a big asterisk with this, and that's that we have the know-how to just like shut this thing off at the firewall and run it in LAN mode. I've got a custom firmware on my bamboo. If anybody out there is listening to this and you've got an X1 Carbon, look up how to set up X1 Plus, because it's got a feature where you can just like cut it off from outside internet access at the printer, and then you can, if you have the know-how, you can do that at your router too, and have multiple layers of defense and confidently use LAN mode.
Okay, and so ignore all that, and they said the Ender 3 is the best. No, but I mean,
I'll fight you, dog.
in reality, though, like in Ender 3, like there's been so many guns printed on it, like thousands of guns with tens of thousands of rounds. It's usable, but absolutely the bamboo. So how hard is making the custom firmware? So Ender 3 custom firmware, if anyone ordered it, Johnny used to make it at JNY Boy, used to make it for Ender 3s. How hard is that to set up? You said Google X1 Plus. Could I do
Yeah.
it?
I think we should add a caveat here really quickly, Shittinator. My understanding is that the custom firmware only works on the Carbon series printers. It does not work on the P series. Is that accurate?
It only works on the X series printers. The difference between the X1 and the X1 Carbon is just the hot end, like whether you got the hardened steel hot end. But yes, it only works on the X series printers because the P series printers don't have that really beefy ARM control board that the X1.
Exactly.
I lost track of the original question. London, what was the question?
So it's like, could I do that? Is it that hard to set up firmware? Like,
Right, setting up the firmware. It's a two-step process. The first is you have to download a. Okay. They originally did this like via exploit, this X1 Plus team, and then they went to Bamboo, and Bamboo was like, "We'll just let you have a firmware version that lets you root the printer." So you backdate the printer, kind of, to a version of the firmware that you can root, and then you just put some stuff on an SD card, and you run a program on your computer, and it talks to the printer over the network, and establishes some stuff, and then bam, you're done, more or less. There's like a couple of asterisks, but it's all governed in this setup guide. They go over it.
okay,
Yeah,
sweet.
one of the reasons why I kind of brought up the fact that this is specific to a different series of printers, like not everybody's using X series, so don't be confused. Like I'm not aware that there is a comparable open source firmware for the P series at all. There's completely different workarounds that you have to use.
And so now building a Voron, like if someone wants to do that and go full open source, that does require a more significant skill level, I feel like.
I think that's an understatement. I think that's quite a bit of an understatement.
I don't know. Like, I mean, okay.
I don't know. It's been a minute since I've looked at Vorons. If you're more privy to the setup process, because I haven't looked at it in like a year and a half, I'll cede to your expertise.
I would say this. I would say as a first printer, it's pretty impossible. But if you're familiar with an Ender, like you're familiar with the parts and what they do, I feel like it's much easier. If that makes sense. So I'm that's the only hesitancy as far as like recommending that. A lot of people have asked like, should I do this? Should I build one? And it's like, if you're familiar with printers, if you like tinkering, I feel like the answer is yes. But if you don't want to put that time in, like now that's a significant time investment. And a lot of people will think like it's cheaper. I mean, not really. Like sometimes it's even more expensive as you get off into like these tributaries and different areas of like these tangents of, oh, this specific part, these specific screws. And so do you all recommend, like, is it seriously worth it, or is it just better to say, like, if someone wants to print, say, hey, get a Bamboo, look up how to take it offline, only use LAN mode?
That would be my recommendation. I mean, I got past having a 3D printer hobby a while ago and started having a 3D printing hobby. I feel like that's where most people are at this point. So, I mean, if you're really into actually putting your own printer together, then maybe that's a route for you. I don't think that that is representative of what a lot of the community actually wants to be doing at this point. And quite honestly, I don't know that the risks that most people are facing really warrant going to that extreme at this point.
I would concur 100%. I think you are more at risk of electrifying yourself or burning your house down doing a Voron than you are getting raided by the feds if you're in like the 40 some odd states in the union where printing a PMF is completely legal with no asterisks.
Okay, thank you for that insight, guys. I really appreciate that. And as we kind of like look at these risks and like talk about them, one thing sticks out in my head. Our friend of the pod, AG Cast, watched a video from Channel 5 in the UK, and they found a printer, and this guy's in like a... They use weird words. I'm pretty sure they said cupboard, but it was like a dresser. And they found the printer, found the gun. They were unable to prove he printed it. It was an Ender based. And so... Is, like, if you have the bamboo and land mode, will they be able to see, like, what you print? Like, if for some reason it gets seized and they take you in for printing too many anime titties or too many of the T-Rex's heads on the penises, will they be able to see what you've been printing?
If they have your SD card and you haven't cleaned those SD cards, yes.
Oof.
Yeah. In order for the printer to print the thing, it needs to save it somewhere, and that's saved to the SD card. Honestly, the fact that they weren't able to pull that off of the Ender in that article you're quoting is a miracle.
Well, keep in mind, it is British police. So this is... this is... I don't want to get into it, but I mean, British police. I mean, we're not dealing with the sharpest beans on the toast.
And have a license for that data forensics.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. It's funny watching, and I recommend people go check the video. It's funny watching them negotiate, and they're even giddy about like, oh, how are we going to catch him? Which that's a whole nother conversation, but that's what people are doing who want to weaponize this data, weaponize things like that. And so, talking about open source slicers. Now, slicer is something else that can help, like that can store your data, right, in the SD card. Or how does that work? So, like, if I'm using Cura, is Cura saying to the SD card, this is a gun? Or is it just what I save it as?
Shit, did you want to take this one or do you want me to?
That's a good question. I think I'll go. So as far as slicers go, all of the open source ones, to my knowledge, that they don't have any sort of like AI gun detection or anything like that. But this gets into the idea of like what sorts of metadata are embedded in the sliced G code, which, if you'll remember from a few months back, was a pretty big fucking headache for us. And it was with Gummie's help that I was able to like get a good handle on what all, like, the comprehensive answer to this question, which I don't think we have a comprehensive answer outside of it could be literally anything in there, dude.
Oh my fucking god.
The metadata that's saved to a file. So let's say you slice your gun, right? You're doing a DD-17 or something, and you're sending it off to your Ender 3 weapon. In that G code could be, potentially, say, the file name of the sliced mesh, or the name of the project file that it was saved from. Like, you've got Glock 17.3mf open in Orca Slicer. You slice it, it could be Glock 17 plate 1.g code, or it could be in a comment field in there or somewhere. But what we found is that basically any form of sliced G code for all of these printers is very likely to leak what it is in like plain text, like that it's a DD-19 or that it's the FGC9 lower or something. And B, if you're signed into the slicer, it could also leak information about your account in that sliced G code.
We really quickly, I'm sorry to cut you off, but we really need to parse out that there's a difference between a G code file and something like a 3MF or an STL or an STP file.
Correct, yeah, there's all sorts of data formats here, right. I'm misspeaking. G code is just the instructions for the printer to move a motor in a particular direction and do it with other motors in tandem. But a 3MF file is a 3D manufacturing format, is I think what it stands for. That's what Bamboo ends up sending. So whenever you send your G code to your Ender, it's like a .G code file. But for Bamboos, it's always a .3MF, and that contains the G code along with extra metadata, like a screenshot of the model, so it shows up when you're on your X1 and you're flipping through it. You can look and see what it actually is, as well as a bunch of other details.
And so, is there I think I know the answer, but is there a workaround to this? Like, so can I download? Let me scroll the index real quick, which is what you all should be doing. So I download the Pill Popper V2, and for some ungodly reason, I don't want to wait 1 month and file a paper with the ATF for $0. So I download the Pill Popper and I change it to Hello Kitty Adventure on my computer. Wouldn't it just tell the computer that it's printing Hello Kitty Adventure, or is that not how it works?
It depends. If you're doing the G code doesn't have that much extra metadata to it. You shouldn't consider this a good defense, trying to mask the fact that you're printing a pill popper. But it's way worse with the 3MF format, because the 3MF format is like the slicer is going to take a screenshot of the model and include it in that 3MF file whenever you slice it. So it may say the Hello Kitty model or whatever, but then you look at it and it's a can pointed on its end. It's pretty clear it's not Hello Kitty.
Oof. So I'm like kind of learning more about this. Bamboo is giving me a headache. So essentially they could have all this information because they use exclusively 3MF, right? And they could have access to all this metadata, and we don't know where it's at or what they're doing with it.
Well, if you're cloud printing and they have all of the data for what you're printing, they could do all kinds of analysis, and we have no visibility into what it is that they're doing with it. They could be scanning every single file that you're trying to print, assess what it is, use it for AI training for whatever corporate purposes they have for future products. We have no way of knowing any of that.
Yep, there's that. There's also another thing to consider, which is like, Bamboo is a Chinese company.
Yeah.
If you are dispatching a print to their cloud, you are by necessity sending sliced G code to one of their servers in China. And sliced G code is a regulated ITAR export.
Correct.
Don't do that. Don't send regulated ITAR exports overseas. That's probably a bad idea.
Yeah, no, and especially because I'm wondering how Bamboo's managing this, right? Because the Chinese government essentially has full authority over every company there, and they do use it for some good things. Some billionaires have disappeared. Not anyone else's statement, but mine. That's kind of good, I think, personally. But largely, it's used and abused. As far as they can take the data any company has, they can sell it. That's happened often. They've sold tons of data, and American companies and the American government has bought a ton of data from China, from other countries, from any individual. But I'm guessing I know the answer again, but Bamboo could just sell the data, right? Like, we don't know.
You could say it depends on what's in their privacy policy, but realistically, yeah, they could just send the data.
Oh my god. And
don't cloud print.
yeah, and so like a lot of people have questioned, like, why are you guys harping on it that much? Why do you say no in cloud print? Why is it so serious? And I think like this has really helped me, and I hope others understand that it's not like, even if you live in a free state, like there's elections every 4 years, these things change.
Exactly.
I mean, I want to look at like a state like North Carolina where they have a Giffords Defender in right now. And right now their gun rights are pretty good, but it's like they have a Giffords Defender, Dims closed the gap. And it's like, if guns are a thing they want to target, like, what's to stop them from going back and saying, you printed this before, or you printed this at a certain time, even if you're in a free state now? Essentially nothing, right? Like,
or if they ban, like, just as a pure hypothetical, if they ban the possession of these files in a certain jurisdiction, you're in that jurisdiction and you have those files, and then they can prove it at a later time. Now you're at the mercy of the court system and all the rest of that, right? To try and prove essentially that you don't have those files anymore. Good luck with that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Jesus. Been saying that a lot this episode, but man, it's really rough.
Yeah, I mean, I really
my
don't
God.
want to doom and gloom the whole thing. There are definitely upsides, and again, we're talking about worst case scenarios and things that have not yet happened. But it's at least something to have in the back of everyone's minds that like there are actual risks here that people need to be aware of.
And it should also be further emphasized that like this is trivial to mitigate if you just get off your ass and put the SD card in the printer yourself.
Correct.
None of this becomes an issue.
Which I've met a lot of 3D printing folks, regular and those who choose to print guns, and a lot of them could use some extra walking. I'm one of them. My Ender setup is actually up some stairs right now, so it's like you can use the extra walking. There's none of us that it's like don't necessarily need to walk some people have it right by their computer. Like you don't even have to walk. You literally just have to like roll your chair. And so it is like to me such a simple step, right? Like it's not hard. If you started with an Ender, that's how you've always done it. I understand clicking a button may be easier, but like it's not that hard, and it goes quite a ways as far as protecting you.
That's true. That's true.
Maybe
And
not
it
now,
should
but
all-
maybe 3 years from now. Yeah.
Yeah.
And as we worry into the future, you mentioned the courts and like being at the mercy of the courts. We have legislators who don't even understand what this is, and I'm not hating on them, right? Like it's confusing. Like they're like computer classes, like were kind of it was typing classes when I was in school, and when a lot of people may not have even had those. So I understand being behind, but it's like, is there gonna be a time where legislators and judges and things like that actually target these more? I know it's coming soon. It's coming in other countries. Australia right now, New South Wales has recently been charging people with possession of files. But is that like on the horizon in America? I know right now G-code is technically free speech, but it's more complicated than that, right?
Yes.
I think it's the opposite.
Especially when it comes to G-code, it is way more complicated than that.
Yeah, because, well, for one, I don't think G-code is actually protected speech. I think the meshes, like the parametric models and the STLs, those are, and I think G-code is like an artifact and it's not considered free speech. I think, don't quote me on that, I haven't looked into this in a while. And it's also completely separate from the issue of regulated exports, which are a completely different thing, and you can absolutely regulate the export of First Amendment protected meshes. Or at least the government thinks they can, and they will send people to your door if you think otherwise.
Correct.
I mean, they think that, but right, like, so when Yeezy was on Red Note, the Chinese app, when that was one of his bands, and spreading some propaganda, I made some cool Mao propaganda. You guys should go check that out. Political powers from the barrel of a gun. But there were people there who were like, I made it past the Great Firewall, I'm printing guns. They actually refer to VPNs as ladders to get over the wall. And so, like, is an American firewall even possible? Like, could that exist?
Ooh, that's asking if the cat's out of the bag, I think, really. I don't know.
Okay. Because, like,
I think in order for you to get that cat back into the bag, you would need to start by disarming all of America.
Mm-hmm. Which
I think there are definitely people who would resist such an effort, and I don't know. That's
my
wheelhouse.
Yeah, I think something like that is too easy to circumvent no matter what. I for 99% of people, maybe something like the Great Firewall actually works, but the 1% of really motivated people will always find a way to get around it. Radio exists. There's no way you're going to get around that.
Yeah, if you really wanted to say, like, what is America's Great Firewall, it's the fact that everybody's just on the same 5 social media websites and they control everything, so all you need to do is threaten to pull a CEO's toenails out, and all of a sudden they'll comply.
That's a really interesting point, and I think you're kind of right in the way that it's like these interactions are limited to so few specific areas that like consolidates the power to this essentially group chat of billionaires potentially.
Yeah, I mean that's what the Snowden leaks were about, right? Was that the government was going behind closed doors and just like asking 5 people to monitor people.
And as we kind of like using that, like Snowden, a great transition, like cops could be accessing this data starting in the past, right? Like there's not like even without a warrant, like I'm not going to speak for you guys, but it's like I believe Bamboo would give it to him. We saw Flash Forge get absolutely dunked on after they were like don't 3D print guns, and it's like Bamboo has a money incentive to comply, right? So it's like there's nothing to stop them. So could they be turning over files now? I'm guessing yes, right? We don't know what they're doing with it.
It's entirely possible.
It's
I don't
possible.
have any way of saying that with certainty that has already happened, but it's possible.
No, we don't know if it's happened or not. It could or it could not. I don't know. It's risk.
Oof. Another oof. Dang. Well, and a lot of that kind of relies, I think, on like the competency and the understanding like law enforcement has regarding like the nuances between STLs, G codes, 3MFs, and things of that nature. And while
They'll
we're
just ban all of it. They don't need to understand it. They'll just write a law that says, "Hey, we're banning all of it."
No,
and let everybody else figure it out.
Exactly, but it's like that doesn't really seem possible, right? It's like you guys mentioned, like it's kind of out of the bag, right? Like we've had enough of a taste of freedom, and the people, as like slow as I am, right? Like not a super tech person. My my nephew, he's like 5 right now. He can navigate a tablet, right? Like if you like, he shoot my niece who's very young right now. She even younger. She asks for my wife's phone and like types in kitty at the top and to search for kitties in the phone. So it's like that generation is going to be even more proficient at avoiding these potential firewalls, potential risks, things of that nature. Is like I like kind of, well, I guess it's kind of a rhetorical argument as far as saying like when we say gun control's dead, as far as mass gun, like a gun buyback or even a gun mass seizure is just not physically possible. Is this physically possible to be restricted that much? I'm thinking no. I believe in the power of the people, but that's probably just my opinion.
In terms of, sorry, I lost track of the initial question. Like the ability to make a printer or printing gun?
Sorry, like printing guns. Like this is like even with like say you're in the red estate, laws change. Like if you are taking your SD card, using an open source slicer, you are at least preventing most of the risk of being caught, correct? Like this is, reining that in is impossible, yes? Like
dude,
essentially
$100 billion company EA can't keep a lid on the ability for people to pirate like games. And people pirating games don't even care that much about this type of shit. I think the cat's so far out of the bag, it's not even funny.
That's good though. So that's good. So that's some good news. We haven't had a ton of good news.
Did you have something else? Or
well, the only thing that I was going to say is in terms of people making their own printers or printing whatever they choose to, the cat is definitely out of the bag on that one. There's open source printers, there's open source software and firmware for those printers. There's nothing that can essentially be controlled about that other than, putting in all kinds of controls on printers that are made in the future or imported into the United States or sold within the United States in the future. I think that fear can be a very useful tactic to prevent people from acquiring files that have been developed going forward. Right? So simple changes that make developers fearful of publishing things could pose a very substantial risk, I think, to the community.
And I love that you mentioned fear because a lot of people are afraid of, rightfully, right, like paranoid, afraid of being caught, afraid to print a gun, period. And in reality, you can do it relatively safely. Like, And that's their number one weapon, right? Like, we're going to put you in a cage. If you even think about printing a gun, we're going to put you in a cage. You're going to be locked in a cage for thinking about a gun, for conceiving of a gun, for drawing a gun in Microsoft Paint, for like that. I mean, we joke, but like that's the direction British are going. Like, they have that movement. Idris Elba was in it actually, which, bruh, come on, like about removing sharp knives, like taking sharp knives, blunt, hashtag blunt something, and taking sharp knives out of restaurants and from out of people's homes. And so it's like, but I think you're right. I think we're so far away from that state that it's not physically, but like as a culture, that it really isn't possible. But it's still kind of scary. So I kind of wanted to read you guys some tweets from people scared of clouds, right? Because it is scary. We've talked about some very scary aspects as far as tracking new things of that nature. And so I want you to rate these tweets 1 scary out of 5 scaries. Okay?
Okay. All right.
Funny how we all of a sudden have financing available for the chemicals being injected into our atmosphere above our homes. How do we have money for this poison and not our citizens' food benefits?
I give that only 1 spooks. I'm not afraid of that.
Yeah, I'm not that afraid of that either.
It's
Maybe
not.
2 spooks.
Yeah, it's same. Like, it's not actually like you got to have some like actual fear mongering here. We got to have something really scary. So this one from Naomi Wolf, which is, I guess I should have included pictures of these, but it's an overcast like of a cloud, like a satellite view. So you're satellite viewing the clouds. Naomi Wolf, in an article about flash floods now in New Jersey with a warning for New York, I just don't remember cloud cover like this, almost sticky looking, and flat and stringy and almost viscous, as if it has a foaming agent added. I kind of like this one. I'm thinking like 3.5 scaries. The foaming agent, like how like the adjective she used to describe it. This tingles my scaries.
Bro, I'll give that like a 1 scary. What are they gonna do? Clean us with the foaming agent?
The foaming agent. Wow.
It's just detergent.
Shittinator doesn't like the foaming agent. What say you, Gummie?
I don't know. It's somewhere in between 1 and 2. Again, I'm just not.
It's hard to scare you.
Yeah.
It's hard to scare you. Okay. We'll have one more here. And this is a local. This is actually posted from a few cities over from me. There's sun, like where sun shines through clouds and it's like does rays. She posts, y'all go outside and look at the sun right now and explain to me how these rays look like this, all caps, from 92 million miles away. So, this honestly is I think I'm going to go a 2.5. I really feel like she could have used more caps. More caps would have been scarier.
Gummie, what do you think?
I'll give it a 3. Airborne particulates are no joke. Lung diseases are no joke.
I'm gonna give it like a 4.5, dude. That sun's gonna fucking stab someone.
That's true. It is going to. That is the most present risk of anything I've discussed so far. The sun is big and scary, and if it's closer, it's even scarier.
Inverse square law. It gets like logarithmic or exponentially scarier the closer you get to it.
That is true. Whoa, I may have to read. She may be cooking.
Disclaimer: not a doctor.
And in 1 hour, this did have 15 likes. I'm not going to comment the comments because some will make fun of her, but it is funny to see that. Very Facebook coded. Facebook gets the dub. So as we kind of back to the more serious topic at hand, as we kind of close out here and talk about like weighing the pros and cons yourself, determining your threat model, and things like that. We talked about fear and we kind of joked about it, but that's what media uses, right? Gummie mentioned it earlier. He loved the media, like growing up, like seeing movies. Back to the Future was super cool. Imagining the Car was super cool for me as a kid. And you kind of get stuck in this place of it affects your perceptions of the reality so much. We talk like the CSI effect, tracing bullets for the most part, micro stamping. Micro stamping is a big one. You've seen it on shows. Knowing exactly what barrel a gun came out of. As more 3D printed guns are in more media. Sidebar: did you guys see the movie? It's in on Netflix.
Sorry, what part of that was the movie title?
Oh no! Did you see the movie on Netflix? I'm forgetting the movie title now. Prep was great, guys. I'm sorry. Great pod prep. But it's
This guy, fucking amateur.
yeah, I know. Let me type it in here. Great producing. I just can't afford to pay a producer, so it's like I am the producer, so this is what you guys are going to get. 3D printed gun exploding Netflix. Movie. I'm gonna type movie next. We can cut this out. Let's see. Oh yes, Leave the World Behind. Okay. Did you guys see Netflix's 2023 movie Leave the World Behind, where it features a clear... Oh my gosh, not the burp in between it. Okay, edit that out. Note. Alright. And I haven't said anything incorrect. Okay. Did you guys see Netflix's 2023 disaster thriller Leave the World Behind, where at the end of the movie there's a 3D printed gun. It's kind of clear, which there's people messing around with clear 3D printed guns, but that's not a reality yet. And he goes to fire it, and he fires it too many times in a row, which is like 4. So it explodes, blows his arm off, and KILLs him. And so that's just a more recent example, right? 2023. As 3D printed guns head into mainstream media, are there some fallacies you guys see popping up? Is there areas you think the fearmongers are going to target particularly in regard to 3D printed guns as they make their appearances on mainstream like media, movies, documentaries, even streaming type shows?
I don't have a Netflix account, so I haven't seen the movie. No.
And you haven't stolen it. Wow. Based Tor user Shittinator.
I have not stolen any media in my entire life. Thank you very much. I will have you know, sir. Getting back to the question, though. Gummie, have you seen it?
I saw the movie. I don't remember the exact scene that you're talking about. But I've definitely seen that movie before.
Yeah. It's probably just going to be the same tripe shit that they keep saying is like, oh, it's spooky ghost gun and only illegal people use it or whatever. But I came out wrong.
Wow.
The fact that only criminals use this gun. You can keep that in. I'll leave that in. Or the fact that they explode because of that one video that Cody Wilson did where he fired a Liberator once and then everybody joked about how the Liberator was a piece of shit. We're gonna keep seeing those two talking points for basically eternity.
And so, I mean, I think you're totally right. Is there an aspect where it's like, I'm kind of like putting myself... Oh my god, I knocked over my mic. Sorry guys, holy shit.
Oh my god, his microphone. God, you can't believe this shit.
That's me slapping Shittinator for not stealing media.
I can't believe you slapped me for not stealing media.
I know. And so, also, oh my, like, I think there's going to be this thing where it's like, you have to download guns on the dark web. These files, and they've kind of mentioned this before, they got the files from the dark web. These files are only accessible on the dark web. And that's just, like, not that this would stop them, but it's blatantly false, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, no dark web, none of the normal guns explodey stuff. And it is going to be harder because you guys see this, I'm sure. Ivan loves when someone says a 3D printed gun exploded, people start tagging him. He posts a Plastikov video or a Recession video, whatever it may be, of the gun working and to dunk on them. And so, but it's hard to really do that with a movie, like unless you get like a massive amount of people or the company's someone online. But normally it's just an agency handling it. It's just going to be like going into a void. Is there a way to steer the media, right, toward a more friendly 3D printed gun angle? Or are we kind of stuck just because the police state is where it's at with its relationship with media?
I feel like I've had the floor for the past, 4 questions. You want to take this one again?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think it's really unlikely that the media would actually spin it in this way. But one possibility is a world where firearms are not as prevalent as they are generally in the United States. So people are essentially forced to procure and manufacture their own firearms for their own defense. That's a positive spin on that. Kind of a dystopian world where, you have to go to those lengths, but...
Potentially like a cyberpunk type situation, like playing on that like idea of like, even like Star Wars a little bit, that like rebel idea. And that
you want to defend yourself, your friends, your family, the people that you care about, go and make it.
Exactly, and I think that's a really appealing message, and I kind of think that's what we have to do, and that's why I love Shittinator as far as the message of the GunCAD Index, right? It's not ran by a pedophile, for example. It's there's no bullshit. It's very simple. Anyone can go download files. And so, Shittinator, what kind of inspired you to have that view? Is it just like a personal view? Is it a thing where you just want to be committed to being as open source as possible?
I think it's multiple things. The first is that I like open source, and so I did not come from a gun background. Basically, I liked open source for a while, and then I learned, hey, you can print guns, and I'm like, oh my god, open source guns, and then I'm like, oh my god, open source guns are awesome. But it was also just filling a need. What it was nothing more than me going to Odyssey and trying to find something, and getting so incredibly fucking pissed off that I spent 4 days learning how to write enough Django to scrape a Libri endpoint, or library, or however it's pronounced, so that I could have a personal database of as much gun content as I could find that I could search via SQL queries.
No, and I think that's like so cool because I wanna like.
And then after that, I was like, well, shit, I may as well put a web portal in it, right?
And it's helped so many people, right? Like it. I don't think like if someone's new or didn't use Odyssey, potentially, or people in the future, Odyssey search was one of the most awful things on the internet. As far as like not coming up with what you want from a technical perspective, actually, why was Odyssey search so bad from a technical perspective?
Ooh, so this comes down to several things, which is, I think the heart of it is that it's based on a coin. It's a crypto thing, right? And so people put more money into certain claims on library, and they end up getting ranked higher in search results as a result of that. I don't know the specifics on why their search algo is so bad in terms of full text searching. It could just be like a scale of content issue. But yeah, for the small scale, like the small view of Odyssey that we have, it's pretty trivial to just put 10,000 rows in a database and calculate a couple things so that search isn't that bad. So yeah, I guess just in short, I don't know why it's really that bad. It seems like you should have better indices in its internal database of I don't know. I didn't dig into it, man. I just kind of hooked the thing up to it and went, man, I'm not using this shit anymore.
No, definitely. And it is kind of so advantageous. I tell people if you can't find it on the index, that's your printing a gun test. I think you shouldn't be able to print a gun if you can't find it on the index because it's so easy. It's actually so easy. Compared to Odyssey, if you were looking for a specific file, even using tags, it could take hours to find it specifically, or you had to talk to someone who knew what it was. And so I think the GunCAD Index is a pivotal point in the proliferation of 3D printed guns and their expansion into this new era of them being discussed in the public zeitgeist. And so I want to thank you for that personally. I think it's super cool. Everyone should follow the Shittinator. Again, I have these I have these codes up. I have his index codes. I use code index at Aves. Get somebody a Mac upper. Control Pew. Use code index. He has a ton of cool shirts. I'm wearing, if you can see the Zoom call right now, I'm soy jacking at some clouds, some chemtrails, liberal, and I'm wearing the Control Pew FGC 9 Lives.
Floral FGC 9 shirt. Yeah. The
Yep.
one he put out recently.
Yes, absolutely. So use code index, get 5% off that. At MAF, get 10% off using code index. We love the people at MAF. Tons of cool stuff, tons of cool kits. Hitchhiker, Matt's creation, very fun little plinking gun. If I'm suggesting one gun to get people into shooting guns, it's like if they've never touched a gun before and you want to have them shoot their first 3D printed gun, go ahead like that. Like with the Hitchhiker, it's so fun, it's so cool. Yeezy's working on a version that folds up right now. Highly recommend. And 3dprintfreedom.com. Use code index5. Tons of kits available for a bunch of stuff. Like if there's a popular build, they likely have a kit for it. And so and tons.
Much love to Yasha over at I hope I'm saying his name right, over at 3D Print Freedom, because he's been really tightly involved in some of the development aspects of the index and some of the things that we've been doing as of late. So much love to him.
That's awesome. And he does the oh my gosh, I wish I had
the GunCAD Digest.
Yes.
It would be remiss of me to not say that you should go follow the GunCAD Digest. Google it. You can find it. I'll tweet the link whenever I quote tweet this later.
And
follow me on Twitter, the Shittinator.
Yes, the Shittinator. And the digest is great because it's hard to keep track of, even if you're following everyone. If you're not online at all times a day, it's hard to keep track of, did this release, did this dev say something? And so that's a great place where like information is curated to say, hey, here's what went on since the last newsletter. Highly recommend it. It's normally a brief read, maybe 10 minutes, but you go through it, shows everything that's happening, keeps you updated on betas, similar to like an AGCast video, but this is readable. This is much more frequent. This is all groups, not just the catalog. 100% check it out. And there's BLC on the screen right now too, while we're just shouting them out. Very cool people over there that are working on cool guns. Very cool guns. Miami 4 Quad has some betas out right now. Tons of cool stuff that they have out. And as we're kind of close here, we got the plugs in. I wanted to get the plugs in before we close. What is, and this is kind of a long closer though, it's like, how does like the digital ID push in these systems like kind of affect this in the future? Like as we look to the future, is there a step where you're required to put your ID into a site? Your digital ID, it comes hooked up to your ISP. Is that something that is a threat in America or no?
Oh, I saw Gummie perk up in the webcam view whenever you started asking this question.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see it as too big of an issue in the near future. I could see it being a gigantic issue in the medium to long term. The reason I perked up, and maybe this is more of kind of a niche aspect of this, is the second that those kinds of systems start being implemented, what happens when that information starts being watermarked into our files, into our prints, and being monitored. And that's kind of my bread and butter. That's what I'm really hyper focused on, is like, how is it that this community gets attacked 5 years from now when they start implementing those things? In general, I mean, I think that the internet is very fragmented. There's a lot of different companies out there. The government is not necessarily very good at shepherding, large programs like that. But we'll have to see. Shittinator, what do you think?
I think IPv6 has been in perpetual beta for how many decades now? And I don't think anybody is in any sort of rush to standardize on this sort of thing and then replace 400,000 switches across the entire United States in order to make something like this a feasibility. In the near term, I don't really see it being like a network level issue like that. But in general, I just think we all have a duty to oppose these sorts of things, right? Like, talk to your local representatives if these sorts of things start to show up in a, in a place that would affect you, and make it known that you do not enjoy digital ID or think it's a good thing for the health of the internet or freedom of information, the First Amendment, basically any of this shit, right?
I think that's absolutely right, and I want to thank you guys again for coming on. As we look into the future, I know what you all listening should do in the future, and that is 3D print a gun. Thank you, Shittinator, at the Shittinator. Go visit the GunCAD Index. Gummie, throw the plugs in, and we'll send us off, brother.
My plugs?
Yeah, go follow Gummie. He
Plug your Twitter, dude.
No,
Whatever else you got.
Yeah, so my Twitter's just capital GUMM13. Follow me for information as it relates to, the actual files, STLs, 3MFs, the research that I've been looking into, and just general everyday kind of shooting content and stuff like that. I don't have any major plugs, but one thing that I will say is a gigantic shout out to Red, who's my partner. And without her, I honestly would never have been able to have the time or the patience to be as motivated as I am to try and help out this community.
That's
big shout out to her.
That is awesome.
Much love to her.
We love supportive partners. Supportive partners are amazing. And since you brought that up, I close pump faked you. We're gonna do one more close. We were watching that movie, and I don't even know if it was the right movie now. But we were watching a Netflix movie, and the 3D printed gun exploded, and she exclaims, "They don't do that!" And like my heart left my chest. It filled me with so much joy that my wife was rejecting media bias about 3D printed guns. And again, thanks to those guys coming on. Gummie's being humble. He's helped Shittinator with a ton of nerd stuff, and he is really one of the first people interested in this stuff talking about it. Please follow him. If something happens in this atmosphere, he is the first or one of the first people on it. He explains it in ways that's easy for people like me to understand, and a great, very important resource that I highly suggest you people take advantage of, and we will see you next time.